She is 20 years old. She has her first real job. The salary is not large. It never is at 20, but it is hers. And for the first time in her life, the money arriving in her account is not pocket money, not a gift, not borrowed from someone else. It is the product of her own time and effort. And what she does with it in the next 12 months will quietly determine the shape of the next 30 years of her life. Most 20-year-olds do not know this. Nobody tells them. The school did not cover it. The parents, if they knew, probably did not say it clearly enough. And so the money arrives and it gets spent not recklessly, not stupidly, just normally. On rent, on going out, on the small upgrades that feel like rewards for having survived the transition into adult life. And this continues, month after month, until the pattern is so established that it no longer feels like a choice. It just feels like how life works. But there is a version of this story where one thing is different. One decision, made quietly and without drama at the very beginning, before the pattern has a chance to set, that changes the mathematical trajectory of everything that follows. The decision is not complicated. It is not secret. It has been written about thousands of times. And yet almost nobody makes it at 20 because at 20 it does not feel urgent. The reward is too far away to feel real. The sacrifice is immediate. The result is invisible for years. And so it gets postponed until 30, until things are more settled, until there is more money, until life is less complicated. And by the time life is less complicated, the most powerful variable in the entire equation has already been partially spent. That variable is time. Here is the mathematics that nobody shows you at 20 in a way that actually lands. If you invest $200 a month starting at age 20, and you earn an average annual return of 8%, by the time you are 60 years old, you will have accumulated approximately $700,000. $700,000 from $200 a month. From the price of a few dinners and some streaming services redirected into an investment account every 30 days. Now take the same person, same $200 a month, same 8% return, but they start at 30 instead of 20. By 60, $300,000. The 10-year delay costs $400,000, not because they invested less money over their lifetime. The 30-year-old actually has more total money coming in, because the compounding had 10 fewer years to operate. Those 10 years at the beginning, when the amounts are smallest and the sacrifice feels largest, are mathematically the most valuable years of the entire journey. This is what nobody explains clearly enough. The sacrifice at 20 feels biggest precisely when it is most important, and the ease of waiting feels most reasonable precisely when waiting is most expensive. But this video is not really about investment returns. It is about something that happens before the mathematics, a shift in identity that occurs when a 20-year-old makes one structural financial decision and maintains it long enough for it to become part of who they are. When you redirect a portion of your first real salary before lifestyle absorbs it, you are not just saving money. You are establishing, at the very beginning of your financial life, that you are someone who builds rather than just spends. That identity, formed early, before the patterns of adult spending become rigid, shapes every financial decision that follows. It is significantly easier to increase a savings rate at 25 when it has existed at 20 than to start one at 35 when 20 years of different habits have accumulated. The person who makes this decision at 20 does not feel wealthier at 21. They feel roughly the same as everyone around them, except that somewhere in the background a slow, invisible process has begun. At 25, they notice it slightly, a balance that has grown to something real. At 30, they feel it clearly, a financial foundation that their peers are only beginning to build. At 40, the difference is no longer subtle. It is structural, permanent, and the product of a decision so small it barely felt like a decision at all. The person who does not make this decision at 20 will spend the next decade and a half believing that they will start when things get easier. Things get easier at 30. But 30 brings a mortgage. 30 brings a family. 30 brings a lifestyle that has expanded to absorb every raise since 22. And the savings that were going to begin when things calmed down have still not begun, because the things that make them feel necessary have also not arrived yet. They are coming, just around the corner, just after the next milestone. This is the trap, not poverty, not bad luck, just the completely rational, completely human tendency to postpone the invisible in favor of the immediate. And it plays out across millions of lives in exactly the same way, with the same quiet cost, and the same moment of recognition somewhere in the 40s when the math finally becomes unavoidable. The one decision at 20 is not about sacrifice. It is about sequence. Decide, before lifestyle has a chance to form around your full income, that a fixed portion of every paycheck moves to a separate account automatically. Not what is left over, before lifestyle, before discretionary, before the month has a chance to absorb it. The amount matters less than the consistency. The consistency matters less than the timing. And the timing, 20 years old, first real salary, before the pattern sets, is the variable that the mathematics rewards more than anything else. You cannot go back to 20, but if you are reading this at 22 or 25 or even 29, you are still early. The curve has not flattened yet. The compounding still has decades to operate. The decision that feels small right now is still the most financially consequential decision available to you. Make it before you feel ready. Make it before you feel like you can afford to. Make it especially if it feels too small to matter, because the mathematics of compounding exists precisely to make small things enormous over time. One decision, made quietly, without drama, before anyone around you understands why it matters. That is the entire difference.